Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. Happy Black History Month to one and all, the shortest month with the longest history. And this, folks, is the Comic Book Chronicles, which you can find on the Cold Slither Podcast Network, the CSPN.us. Don't worry,
Do it today.
Reason.
Do it today.
And you could find us recording on Thursdays nights, every Thursday night, mostly, on the YouTube channel of The Kliq Nation's YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/The Kliq Nation and twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles.
Make sure to click like, subscribe, and leave us all the fabulous 5-star reviews.
Indeed. But never mind all that. I am your host, Roddykat. You can find me on Roddykat. You can find me on Twitter at Roddykat. You can find me on Twitter or News Need on Twitter. You can also find me at CBCaps on Instagram.
I was wondering when he was going to get to that part.
Switch it up.
With Columbia down the way.
I should play his other sound drop just for that.
And the sound effects you've heard come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, @agent_70 on Twitter, 70 on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads.
What's up, everybody? Co-hosting from the borough of Kings.
Brooklyn, stand up.
Got choked up there for a second. It was weird. But yeah, folks, we are here. We are live. It is Thursday. We are in your ears. Like I said, first day of February. Black History Month and this wonderful time. Already starting off with a bang. Hopefully, poor choice of words. But anyway, the first thing we are going to get into tonight is books, because we don't really have any live action stuff to talk about. But I will go ahead and say that, hey, if you like the Boondocks, there's Adult Swim has a live channel for the Boondocks, so that's running 24/7 as far as I know. You can check that out. But we folks are going to start off with a sad ending, but a packed ending in Avengers Inc. #5.
Avengers Inc. #5 is written by Al Ewing with pencils by Leonard Kirk, colors by Alex Sinclair, and letters by VC's Corey Petit as Roddykat gets a Windows notification. So I will say that this is, and I think Roddykat will agree, very much a premature ending to the series. The series definitely had some spirit, had some spunk, it had some, really fun storytelling. And it's a crying shame that it did not garner enough interest to make it past an initial 5-issue arc. But I will say that, and I think Roddykat will agree because we talked about this in our pre-show production meeting, that it seemed as though there was a point that Al Ewing hit in this opening arc where it was like a natural stopping point, and he just made that into kind of a series stopping point. So with that, I will hand it off to Roddykat for his thoughts.
So yeah, here we see, as I might have mentioned, as I did mention to Agent 70 before the show, but also previously on the last time we talked about Avengers Inc. And yes, I do agree with Agent 70 that this book died way too young. As sometimes these books in the like sometimes the more interesting books to some of us anyway, I can't speak for everybody, are some of the stuff that kind of do something a little bit different. Thor's was one of those books that we all like, but we also knew that was kind of a place and time for that thing. So, but we all enjoyed it. I can only speak for myself and Agent 70 a little bit to say that, hey, Avengers Inc. was as enjoyable as that because it was doing something different. It wasn't just, hey, the Avengers are going out and doing things. This was Janet Van Dyne and the formerly mysterious Victor Shade going around solving crimes, but also weaving weaving in folks into the tale, which brings us to this particular issue, to which as I said, I totally believe that Al Ewing had this ending already planned out, or if it wasn't the ending, it was probably at the very least a chapter ending. You know, they would find out, you know, the mystery behind Victor Shade, and we do. And it's a blast from the past, folks, as kind of stated in the book in a way. But and I don't know if anybody saw it coming, but it is what it is. But nevertheless, like I said, it is Janet and Victor kind of going around solving crimes, which could have lasted past them finding out the initial mystery of who he was. But in this issue, it all gets kind of wrapped up and all nice and neat. And that's why I said that Al Ewing, I think he probably had this already in the books, like sketched out somewhere, because whether you, and I've seen this with a few creators here and there, like, yeah, they already kind of know where they want to get to. They just filling in the stuff in between getting there because they know how to want. I think even Hickman said it for the X stuff, but that has gotten past him at this point. So like, yeah, sometimes, and even some creators are saying like, yeah, sometimes you have to sketch out the end of the book because you don't know how long the book is going to last. And this is one of those cases to where, you know, it kind of worked out that way. That being said, this issue was pretty much packed full of information that's probably going to hopefully show up someplace else if the last couple of pages of the book is in the indication, which will still be a crying shame for this book. But nevertheless, it still continues to be a family affair in this book, because we have Victor, who we come to find out is definitely, as I said, a blast from the past. In fact, a blast from the West Coast Avengers past, but also related to, because I don't want to give too much of it away, related to, if you're seeing the cover, if you're watching the video version, you have an idea who is related to. And we've talked about it in the past, but it's definitely a relation to somewhat in Jan's past and in Avengers past that has been doing things, and a creation of his comes back into the fold once again, as it always tends to do during the course of an Avengers time. So and which is not the only place this week that this creation comes up, by the way, in this week's books. But like I said, a whole lot of things kind of come together. A whole bunch of folks kind of come into play, even folks that wasn't already in the book. But Al Ewing pretty much plays with a whole bunch of folks he's written before in this particular book. And we got a new / old potential, well, as this book says it, potential new Avenger comes to the stage. But like I said, it's interesting, but I hated that this book died. That's pretty much the gist of it. But this is a potential click of the week for me, and I hate to see it go. I've said that many of times before now, but it still stands to reason. So I don't know if Agent 7 has got anything else to add to that.
No, not really. Not really. I liked it. You know, it was a nice little, you know, story arc. And, you know, as I said in the opening, in my opening remarks on the book, I definitely felt like it was too soon for this book to go away. So.
Oh, and I guess the one last thing I want to say about this is like this. I mean, the book in itself has kind of been showing it, but this particular issue pretty much encapsulates the fact that, well, a fact among certain people that, hey, Jan was a pretty damn good Avengers chairman before this. And as a matter of fact, I would dare say that she was pretty much my favorite, or one of my favorites at least. and probably a good crowd favorite. I know there are some people who, you know, like others for reasons, but this issue in itself and the book in itself just pretty much shows why she was so good at it.
Well, she came to it at a point in Avengers history where they needed a nice change in direction. They had kind of grown a little stagnant in terms of their leadership, and it was a nice change. Obviously, it was the 80s, and, you know, the 80s had its own kind of cultural shifts in it as well. So I think it all sort of kind of went hand in hand, you know, the cultural shifts as well as some of the shifts that were being mirrored in the comics. So I think Jan's chairwomanship is, you know, look back on pretty fondly because of when it happened and the people who are coming of age now, like Al Ewing, who, you know, who came of age then, that is, who are coming who are coming to a certain type of writer age, let's say, like a level of seniority where they're calling some of the shots, or they can pitch stories that are more likely to get accepted. Those are the writers who grew up in that age. So it's interesting that, you know, they might revisit that particular era to try to look for, you know, inspiration.
Right. But also in also that it was a growth for Janet as well, because, you know, one, while she is an original, you know, or founding member of the Avengers, during her time she was just kind of there on the side and being all flirty and whatnot, and, you know, and during the years up until the point to where she ended up being the chairperson, you know, she was kind of that up until around that time, and that's where her growth kind of came in.
Right. Like I said, hand in hand with like the era of Working Girl. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
sure.
That's my point, right? Like you know, like this particular phase of the character's career happened in the 80s. And, you know, like I said, there's a certain movement in the air when it came to, you know, certain level of empowerment in the 80s. Obviously, we've taken steps sideways, upwards, downwards, and backwards since, but that was that's what was going on in the 80s.
Right. So, that being said, though, yeah, I would still say this, I mean, it's only 5 issues. This book is worth a check out, but yeah, I hated that it died so early, because it could have, if it had the space to grow, you know, it probably would have blossomed into something cool, as it already was. So, but like I said, there are things in it that's probably going to prop up somewhere else, and or probably under Al Ewing's hand. So we shall see how that works out. Next up, though, we're going to stay in the Avengers corner with Avengers Twilight Book 2, as they're calling it.
Right. Avengers Twilight, I call it number 2, is written by Chip Zdarsky, with art by Daniel Acuna and letters by VC's Corey Petit. So we pick up right where we left off. It's kind of fun that we're getting this issue like a week after, or 2 weeks after?
2 weeks after, I think. 2
weeks after getting the first issue. And it's kind of fun that we're getting these semi-rapid fire. And, you know, we pick up essentially where we left off with Steve Rogers newly remade in super soldier form. And he's back in action, busting heads on the street, low-level stuff. But the defenders, or these erstwhile defenders, are making plans to try to wake up the general populace. And, you know, obviously there are corporate and other even more sinister forces at work trying to stop them and head them off. And, you know, what we find is even more, I guess, world building is the best way to put it. You know, a lot of the semi-dystopian world that we thought might be, you know, in place gets filled in more in this issue. We get to find out, you know, who's really in charge, who's running the country, where some of these let's say, possibly legacy heroes, possibly legacy identities have gone, the into whose hands those legacy identities may or may not have fallen. We get to see a possible new quote unquote bullseye. We don't know who that is, right? We also see what happens to some of the younger heroes that kind of aged out of being heroes, as it were. But Cap is on a mission to kind of, restoke the dream, as it were, relight the fire. And it turns out, in very much an allegory to current times, his message falls on mostly deaf ears, which is obviously a shock to Captain America's system. But it's the way it always is. Every story's like this with Cap. There's always somebody he reaches, and you get to see who he might be reaching in the pages of this issue. And we'll see how far that goes. Of course, Steve, as always, is unlucky in the love department. I was kind of disappointed to see that part. That's just the way it is, with him. So, but in any event, I'll let Roddykat pick up at this point and just give his thoughts. But yeah, I'm enjoying this. This is a potential click of the week for me with another surprise candidate we're about to talk about next.
Right. So it's funny that you mentioned about the love business, because one, I wanted to ask, do we know who Rosa is? Is she someone of note, or is just somebody for this particular story?
I think it's a new character.
For the story? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Also, it was kind of funny that you mentioned that, because I just watched Mission Impossible 3 last night.
Okay.
And because it was revisiting, because it was like, wait, I was revisiting for reasons that don't really matter at this point.
Oh,
but
right.
Huh?
I don't it could have been on TV for all I knew,
Actually, it was, because I mean,
okay.
Because Plex has not Plex, Pluto TV has channels where it's true, and I think they have a channel that's just been running Mission Impossible all day, all night, or movies all day, or at least the first 4, and also another channel doing the Indiana Jones first 4 movies. So, but I just so happened to be watching that, and I was like, oh yeah, let me actually watch this. to kind of revisit. And the reason why I bring it up is because Ethan Hunt kind of was having, there was the conversation between him and Luthor, with Ethan Hunt and Luthor, about not being able to, have a relationship with what they do. And here we see Cap, while not having had a similar conversation, having that said luck because of what he does. Or because of what he's back to doing, I should say, because before this he was not. So that was kind of funny. That being said, this book still has the video game vibe that I was talking about last time, from Marvel's Avengers video game, because in that game it was Kamala, after some event happened, pretty much got the band back together. And in this particular case, Steve is pretty much doing that. Similarly, but also it also still has a Civil War vibes, because there's an underground and this and that and other whatnot. So
yep.
All of that is kind of coming together. Also, the one I meant to bring up last time, and I don't know if Agent 70 have caught this, but why does Jarvis look like Jim Steranko? Did you notice that?
I did notice the hair.
Yeah, and the shades. It's like why does he look like Steranko?
It's weird. It's a stylistic choice.
It is. I kind of wonder if they did that on purpose, but I don't want to put that on him. But regardless, it's like,
right.
That's interesting. So yeah, this is kind of in the future, and Jarvis's brother is the CEO of, I think is the CEO of Stark Industries or something. I can't remember.
Something like that. Yeah, something like that.
And
Tony, it's something else,
right? And he and Tony Stark's and Janet Van Dyne's son James, of course, are in business together. But it seems that there are some strings being pulled by one of them, in a major way, in a capitalistic way.
In a, let's just say, yeah, I guess capitalistic way is the best way to not spoil it.
I was going to say corporate. Yeah, I was going to say corporate takeover-ish kind of way. But
with a hint of I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, there's
Yeah, because there's a big reveal in this issue.
right. There's some almost potentially real world allegory going on in here with what we just said, and like I said, we don't want to spoil it, so it'll probably come up again. But going back to what Agent 70 said real quick before we would dive out of this, so yeah, the underground folks are called the Defenders, and while the Avengers name does get thrown around in here, we don't actually see them, but we also know that they are not necessarily the Avengers as we would know them.
Right, we see them
normally.
at the very, very beginning.
Right.
Like a news story or something.
Right. And also the Thunderbolts gets thrown around here because apparently the Avengers and the Thunderbolts are under the thumb of people we just spoke of. So it's a good bit going on in this one, and I'm kind of interested to see where this is going. And as I said with the last book we talk about, there is a looming big bad, as Agent 70 said, that's part of the reveal in this. That has to do with a certain creation that is always around when the Avengers, at some way, shape, or form, when the Avengers are around. So, yeah, like I said, it's good stuff. I've been enjoying it so far. I'm like, what are they going to do with it? How they're going to, stick this landing is the thing I'm curious about. And like Agent 70 said, these new legacy characters, like, what's their deal? So it's and
what's cool about this book is that at the end of the book we get some of Daniel Acuna's design work, and I kind of like I probably would get this Marvel Legends cap in this costume. If you go to the very end, you see Acuna's designs. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I like that. That's like the front and back. I'm like, yeah, that's a cool figure.
Right. And I think I've said this before also. Acuna is pretty good. Like that run he did of all different Avengers, which they did kind of do some, I can't remember some timey-wimey stuff, but there are definitely some stuff where they kind of sent them off in other places, possibly other dimensions or whatever the case may be. It was kind of fitting for that book. And similarly here, since this was like a potential future thing, it could be a what if, as Agent 70 said last time. I'm not entirely sure, but everything is a what if you want it bad enough. So that being said, yeah, Avengers Twilight's good stuff. We're gonna go to the next book and the last book that we have between us, which is under Agent 70's heavy asking, the word is escaping me, was what I was really trying to say. Recommendation. Thank you. Recommendation is what I was thinking of. Is Dead X-Men #1.
Right. It's what, and what's funny is that Roddykat put it the best when he said, "Is this one of those books?" He asked me, "Is this one of those books that you don't think is going to be important, and it turns out it is?" Yeah, you're damn right. So, Dead X-Men #1 is written by Steve Fox with art by Jonas Scharf, Bernard Chang, and Vincenzo Caratu. Colors are by Frank Martin, and letters are by VC's Corey Petit. So, as I said, this is one of those, like, I don't know, I guess the best way to put it is a limited series tying into this Fall of X stuff, right? And it's obviously an X book. It's in the checklist for monthly reading when it comes to, the Fall of X stuff. When you go to the back of the X books, right? It is in the reading order. It just did not seem to myself that this was something that was a necessary read, that was going to be consequential, until I read it, until I read the first 5 pages of it, if I'm not mistaken. Once I got through the first 3, 4, 5 pages, I was like, oh, I'm hooked. I get it. I know this is going to be somewhat important, right? The interesting part about this is that Dead X-Men carries a bunch of meanings. It carries a bunch of meanings. And if you were disappointed at how Fall of X started at the Hellfire Club Gala, rest assured, there's some redemption for that part of the story occurring right at the beginning of this book and throughout the pages of this book. And what I'm referring to is, and this is a mild spoiler, is the, let's put it this way, the grand opening, grand closing of a certain group of characters. That's the best way to put it without completely spoiling it.
Nice. Although there's a subsection of the audience who's not going to get that, but that's fine. Catch up.
There's only a subsection of the audience that will get that. But you know what? If you
It's true too.
if you understand, you know, if you watch some comedy specials, you understand what that means.
If you know, you know. Point blank.
You know.
But
So
yeah,
like that was me being obtuse. Roddykat will spill more of the beans, but I'll
Definitely.
let him go and talk.
actually,
about
I'm
it.
not actually for this one because this one I'm still like so 87 asked me to read it right before we recorded, and I did, and I tried to soak it all in, and I even tried to soak it all in, but you know, it just came out, so I'm not going to go too deep in it, but yeah, we definitely see some folks we hadn't seen in a minute kind of come back into play, and we also see some ties to what in Agent 70 and I kind of talked about this in the form of a plan that one Charles Xavier had kind of mentioned in passing in a fairly recent issue of Immortal X-Men, where we did not know what that was, and here's where the details kind of come into play and are told. So there's really not much else to say for this book as outside of that fact. One, I'm kind of glad Agent 70 did have me read it, even though I was going to read it at some point, and I had forgotten about it until right before we started recording. So it was good to kind of get that one out of the way. There's still some things in this book also that was like, there's still some questions, because let it not be an X book of the week and there's not still draw out some questions, you know, for something that's probably going to be answered somewhere in some other book in the next 3 or 4 months. So, but it was good stuff. So I'm definitely glad I read it, to say that.
Cool. And like I said, also is a candidate for me.
You know what? Yes, I will definitely say that. I will definitely say that. And with that, folks, unless there is anything else we want to, I don't think there is anything else. We're going to go into a rapid fire.
No, I think it's time to, well, as I hear myself echo, thank you, voice meter, I'm going to spin up the old minigun for rapid fire review time.
I ain't got time to move.
First up for me is Titans Beast World number 6 of 6. This is the last issue of this miniseries event. It's written by Tom Taylor with pencils by Ivan Rice and Lucas Meyer and Eduardo Pansica. Inks are by Danny Mickey, Lucas Meyer, and Julio Ferreira. Colors are by Brad Anderson and Romulo Fajardo Jr. And letters are by Wes Abbott. So we get to the ending of this event. The heroes in this story, obviously this is a very Titans-centric story. The heroes do not come out of this event unscathed. Neither does the hero community in general, because Amanda Waller, even though her main goals are thwarted, she pivot, and figures out a way to make the best of this this situation, which did not come out in her favor, but she makes the best out of it. And obviously anything that she gets the best out of is not exactly good news for the hero community. So there are a couple of developments here that are bound to carry forward. To be perfectly honest, I guess this was just the impetus. I guess it's just another step that DC is going to take in order to try to get to the point where they restore the Justice League into the role as the rightful or at least the forefront of the superhero teams. But it's still nice to see the Titans getting some shine and getting to see center stage for a little while. Next up is Philadelphia number 33 from Image. It's written by Rodney Barnes with art by Jason Sean Alexander and Herman Aramuspe. Background inks are by Robert Melendrez. Colors are by Lee Luffridge, and letters are by Marshall Dillon. This book is interesting because you get to see a little bit more of the Image universe interact with the Philadelphia corner of the Image universe. Namely, you're dealing with the Savage Dragon, who I forgot is from Chicago. So we get a little bit of Chicago versus Philly stuff in here. Otherwise, it just feels a little bit like the story spinning its wheels in order to kind of bring in more of the Image elements. We've kind of lost track of, the fighting between the supernatural parts of the supernatural factions, that is, in the pages of Philadelphia. This might just be a brief detour until we get back to that. So we'll see. I'm willing to stick it out. I've been on this book since Jump, so I'm willing to stick it out and see where that goes. Next up is Deadly Hands of Kung Fu Gang War number 2. It's written by Greg Pak with art by Kaio Mahado, colors by Jim Campbell, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. I won't spoil this too much because I know that Roddykat will eventually circle back to this book. I will say, though, that the story was fun. Obviously, there's a lot of, everybody doesn't trust Shang-Chi because of the whole, him, a hero basically running the 5-weapon society thing. There's a lot of that running around. That's fine. That story's fine. The art in this is a little tough to stomach. And that's me being very kind. So that's a little tough. Last but not least is Wolverine number 42. It's written by Benjamin Percy and Victor Lavalier. Pencils are by Corey Smith. Inks are by Oren Jr. Colors by Alex Sinclair, and letters by VC's Corey Petit. Lots of blood and guts in this issue because you've got the army of Sabretooths, or the Sabretooth Nation, or the Saber Teeth, as someone puts it, in this issue, going up against Wolverine and what's left of X-Force, and unfortunately a bunch of, let's just put it this way, a bunch of non-combatant mutants. And it does get kind of ugly. It is Wolverine versus Sabretooth at its core, though, so you're going to see lots of blood and guts and lots of people getting killed. But X-Force is able to kind of rally, and we'll see where that and how that continues in the pages of the next issue. And that is it for me. I will say, though, before I pass it to Roddykat, I caught up on a couple of books at the end of my readings binge this week, or this evening, that being Invincible Iron Man and Guardians of the Galaxy. So I'm up to date and ready for the next issues. And pass it off to Roddykat.
Cool. Yeah, there's still a couple of books I need to handle with that as well, but I should definitely get into it. First up for me is DC Power 2024. I am not going to go, and I apologize to all of the creative teams involved in this, but I'm not going to go through all of the names of the creative teams in this because there's a lot of them. But I will say who has stories in this book. In the first story, so there are 10 stories in this. The first one is Joe Moline, the Green Lantern's Joe Moline and John Stewart. So this is taking place in the Far Sector corner of the universe. In fact, it takes place directly right after Far Sector. It's kind of like an epilogue. So fans of that book should check this out just for that, because it's a nice little fun story that kind of encaps that. The second story is Thunder and Lightning. That's Black Lightning's nieces still. Well, so originally nieces, I think they might have retconned it to being his daughters because they pretty much say that in this book, which if you watch the live action show Black Lightning, this is what they did there. So I think at some point maybe they might have done that in the comic books, or this is like an Elseworld thing. I'm not entirely sure. But Steel and Natasha Irons also shows up in this one, which you'll see a lot of that going on in this in some of these books, in some of these stories. The third one is a character called Bloodwind, which I have no idea who that is, but it's a hell-based person apparently. The fourth one is Superman Earth 2, whose Kryptonian name is escaping me at this point. The fifth story is Black Manta. The sixth one is, and that one's actually pretty decent too. The sixth one is the Spectre, which is a Crispus Attucks version, and the Question with who's Renee Montoya, who's the current Question at this point. There was a true detective reference in there because I guess which just makes sense because they both was and are detectives. Even though I think Montoya is the basically took over for Gordon, so she's like the chief at this point, but she's still running around as the Question. 7 is Nubia and Mxyzptlk or Mxyzptlk.
Mxyzptlk.
Thank you. I'm gonna still call him Mxyzptlk because that's what I grew up with.
That's what it was in whatchamacallit,
Super Friends. Mm-hmm. So that one is a strange one, but you know, you'd have to read to find out what's going on there. The 8th one is Kid Flash Wallace West. The 9th story is Mr. Terrific. And the 10th one is The Signal, which I still hate that name, but the character's pretty cool. But also Renee Montoya shows up in that one, and so does Batwing and the Spoiler, and a couple other folks that I'm not entirely sure who they are, but you know, there's a few different folks in the DC corner that I'm not familiar with. So like I said, the first story is pretty good. The Thunder and Light one's kind of cute. The Black Manta one's pretty good, and the rest of them are all right. So you know, it might be worth checking out if you are, you know, so inclined. Like I said, this is an anthology for just in time for Black History Month, as if it wasn't apparent. Second book for myself is Duke, number 2 of 5. So we're in the G.I. Joe corner. Oops. There we go. Written by Joshua Williamson, art by Tom Riley, colors by Jody Belair, and letters by Russ Wooten. So Duke's on the run. He goes to an old friend before the army days who just so happens to be a Joe, or a Joe that some folks might know of. Let's put it that way. From the original set. And they run into some trouble into the form of a couple of other soon to be but not yet Joes who are after them because General Hawk sent some folks that you would know from that universe after Duke because, you know, because of well, for reasons that, you know, for differing reasons, I'll put it this way, because Duke didn't actually go AWOL. He just, you know, went to go find out some information that folks wasn't telling them. So that sends his people after him, almost Mission Impossible style. Because, you know, there's those 3 or 4 different times where Ethan's been disavowed and gets hunted down, which seems to be a thing. Similar way, actually. We get a cameo from a well-known Cobra associate, just dropped in there in the middle of the pages, and which I guess is kind of fitting because we see, as I say in my notes, a certain, well, we see what the Pit has been turned into in this universe, and we also see, as I say in my notes that I've misspelled, a bespectacled, dark-haired femme fatale who also shows up at the end of this book.
I wonder who that could be.
That just so happens to be in the same space that where Duke and this other I'll say it, go ahead and say it, is Clutch ends up being stored. Let's just put it that way. So yeah, this book's continuing to still be going. Where is it going to go? Don't know, but you know, I'm sure it's going to lead into the G.I. Joe proper book, and probably Duke's going to be back in command at some point. There was a reference, like as I say in my notes, to a familiar relationship that Duke has that was brought up in the movie, and I basically said, no, please don't call him, because he's as I believe, as Beachhead said, a gold-plated goofball in that movie. So yeah.
Okay.
Or something to that effect. Anyway, next up for me is Star Trek Picard Academy number 5 of 6, written by Sam Maggs, art by Ornella Greco, colors by Charlie Kirchhoff, and letters by Jeff Eckleberry. So yes, this is the penultimate issue. Picard and crew are still kind of in trouble because they were on a test mission out in space with a real ship where they are beset by Romulans who, as of last issue, kind of boarded the ship, and some got taken care of, but they still have some out in space, out in their port view mirror, and there's a lot of infighting because, you know, people are kind of scared, and you know, Picard thinks his way should be the way it goes, and this other dude that is kind of his rival thinks his way is the way to go, and both ways didn't work. So of course, at the end, things kind of have to come together to where both have to be tried, and we'll see where that takes them in the next issue. And I'm pretty sure they don't know it, but this is probably going to end up being not a test, is what they think it is, because they're still thinking that Starfleet's testing them. But I think this is probably some real ass stuff that they got into, just that they're not aware of at this point. And the last book for myself, which I know Agent 70 attempted to read, but didn't quite get through, was Moon Man #1 by Mad Solar, which is an imprint of Image Comics. What makes this notable is because it is being co-written by Scott Kid Cudi Mescudi, if you know who Kid Cudi is, congratulations, and Kyle Higgins. The art is being done by Marco Licati, colors by Igor Monti, and letters by Hassan Asmane Alao. So Agent 7 and I both kind of hit upon a similar issue with this book, in that the art's kind of rough. I can't say for certain it's probably a stylistic choice on purpose, but that doesn't make it any better if that is the case. You kind of can get through it, but it is still kind of rough in certain aspects, because there are some things that got to go on in certain parts of the book. It's like, what is going on here? It's a little busy, but the Cliff Notes version is something you've seen before, and I'm not going to give it away, but let's just say it has something to do with a space crew that just came home. There was an event out in space that kind of kept them from completing their mission.
Cosmic rays.
It's kind of probably, but yeah. They were trying to get back to the moon after 50 years, and they make that point a couple of different times in this issue. But like I said, didn't make it. There's a significant amount of time that was lost, and people back on Earth was wondering what's going on. So clearly everybody knows about this event. And I say event because we have had events in the past that have kind of caused things to happen on Earth. And this is not that much difference, because as one person has found out, some things is happening to him. So whether he was the first one or not, probably not, but this is the first one we have come across so far. And there's a big corporation because of this mission was not a NASA funded mission, but a private space jaunt, not unlike ones you've seen in the real world, but also just not unlike in the real world. I'm not gonna say that, because this is a big company that has its fingers in a lot of pockets in this universe, And also is not well liked by a whole bunch of people for probably that reason. So, and again, not that far from some companies in the real world also. So, you know, there's some parallels there that you can catch. You just got to kind of get past the art to get there. Like, this is a story that's, if you've read enough comics or you know, sci-fi stuff, you've probably seen similar to this. Like I said, if you can get past the art, it's not a bad read. But it does, as Agent 7 says, does kind of make it a little dense to kind of get through. So that is it for myself. Kliqs of the week.
Kliqs of the week.
So yeah, I think I assume you're still going with the ones you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, those are my candidates.
Mm-hmm.
Those are my candidates. My top 2 picks: Dead
is...
X-Men #1 and Avengers Twilight Book 2.
Thank you. And for myself,
still deciding between the two.
Yeah. For myself, I'm thinking between Avengers Inc, of course, Dead X-Men, and I did like a lot of stuff in the DC Power, but I can't say that it would be in there. But there was some good stuff in there. Yeah, and maybe Avengers Twilight as well. Oddly enough, like I said, those two Avengers book has once again has a tie in it to a thing that's probably going to come up at some point. In one book, probably quicker than the other for certain. So, Duke #2 is also all right, but say I'm not sure if I'm prepared to put that in there as a potential, but it was good though. So, I think I'm just going to go ahead and do it. I'm leading with my heart on this one. Avengers Inc. #5 is going to be
I figured you would. I figured you would. I'm actually gonna go against the grain just a touch because I really enjoyed Dead X-Men #1.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed Avengers Twilight Book 2 or #2 also.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong, but I think the surprise of enjoying Dead X-Men #1 really got me this week.
Yeah, agreed. It is definitely up there for me too. Like I said, I'm glad you asked me to read it. So, because I probably would have texted you after the fact. I was like, "What the hell?" When I did read it,
right? And shout out to whomever wrote the opening synopsis of the entirety of Hoxpox to Fall to Dawn of X to Rise of It to Fall of X. You know, it's literally like 3 paragraphs, but those are some of the best pieces of like information that we've gotten in months, if not years.
Yeah, if you wanted a concise Cliff Notes version of what's been going on in this whole Krakoa era, that's pretty much it.
Yep.
Like, one or two things might have been left out, but you know, still.
I was about to say though, I think the important part, right? The key to the synopsis is the why.
Right.
Right? Because once you figure out the why and how everything connects, that's what makes everything make more sense.
Right. Because usually those synopses are like, hey, this is what's going on in this book. It's not necessarily all the way around. What is important that has happened prior to this that's going to be important for this book is the case. And it sure is.
Right. So I kid you not, folks. Shout out to whomever wrote that.
Yes, indeed. And with that, folks, we're going to go over into the news section. But first, let's get an ad read.
Our first ad read of the night is for Wink, your personalized wine club. Wink is a world of wine delivered right to your door. From rosé to Cabernet to Torronté, Wink has over 100 styles of wine to discover. Ever try an orange wine? Wink connects you to a world of exclusive wines tailored to your tastes and delivered directly to your door. Wink delivers 4 bottles of wine to you every month with free shipping. You can pick your own bottles or let Wink choose and match to your taste. It doesn't cost a thing to become a member, and you can skip or cancel anytime. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy an exclusive discount of $20 off your first order. To place your first order with $20 off, and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us/wink. That's cspn.us/WINC. Wink wines through CSPN. Do it today. And now we get into the news.
Starting off with cinematic news as we do about this time. Some good and bad news, but also news that's not very surprising if you're a Doctor Who fan. So Doctor Who replaces Millie Gibson as the companion after one season. Again, not the first time this has happened in the world of Doctor Who, classic or new. Who is going to take the place of her is actually cool, personally, because it is Radhasethu that some may have seen from Andor. That was Cinta from Andor.
Oh, okay, because you know what I was going to come at you with.
Who? Mm-hmm. Yep. So yeah, so she's so that's who's going to replace Millie Gibson. There's apparently, according to this article, there is no specific reason for Millie Gibson's exit, but apparently the Daily Mirror's reporting suggests that the showrunner Russell T Davies decided to write her out after the first season. Again, not the first time this has happened in the annals of Doctor Who, especially the new Who, but definitely just in general. So if there's going to be something else that comes out from this after that, we'll find out then. But that's it. Doesn't seem to be in the news. Gibson will appear as her character a handful of times in the Christmas special, which is not yet appeared yet. So won't see the end. Not the last time we see that character. So next up.
When discussing his brief cameo in The Flash, Nicolas Cage recently revealed that the original plan for the scene was apparently much more interesting than the version in the final movie. Cage had originally been slated to play Superman back in the 90s in a film directed by Tim Burton. Let's see here. The Flash would or could have given Cage a chance to show off his version of Superman, if only for a few seconds. However, the movie opted to replace Cage's original performance with the eventual CGI version that showed up fighting a giant spider, which was a reference to another failed attempt at Superman. So, yeah, whatever, man. I'm never watching that Flash movie again, so it doesn't matter to me.
I haven't watched it yet, so you still got a one up on me, or I have one up on you. I don't know, whichever the case may be.
It goes both ways.
Yeah. Next up, though, hey, guess what? James Gunn has found a Supergirl. So, and who comes in the form of House of the Dragons, Millie Alcock. If you're watching the video version, you can see a picture of her. I still don't know who she is, but thank you for telling us where she's from.
I watched House of the Dragon, and I was like, oh, she's super young, but then they make her look super young in House of the Dragon. So yeah, obviously by the time this film, she's going to be somewhat, in her mid-20s and, may probably look a little older.
Well, yeah, but also historically, Supergirl is even though she's supposedly older than, Kal-El, whatever, she's still presents younger than he does because of what happened, what I'm assuming they're going to do and why they're, going with her for that reason. So, but yeah, there you go. She beat out a couple other people, and that's what we got. So this is, so yeah, she's going to be the Supergirl in her own movie, but she's also going to show up in likely that Superman Legacy movie prior to that, and probably something else according to this article. Next up.
All right, just a moment. Paramount Plus. Nah, just Paramount Plus. You don't get the plus. You don't get the fancy treatment. Paramount Plus starts production on Star Trek Section 31, movie starring Michelle Yeoh, and has added 7 folks to the cast. Okay.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I still need to watch Discovery, but looking forward to it. So, speaking of, well, not speaking of Paramount Plus, but I'm just going to put this in here because I didn't put it in the lineup, I don't think. But hey, folks, if you got Hulu and you're sharing your passwords, they're cracking down with it, just like Disney Plus is doing. Not surprising because Disney owns Hulu, so it was a matter of time. But next up, Star Wars' Billy D. Williams addresses Lando's unresolved Rise of Skywalker plotline, which I believe has something to do with Lando's daughter, who was lost. And he was speaking to some podcast and saying they were trying to. I'm not gonna do that. They were trying to decide whether I should have a daughter. I don't know if they decided to follow up on the idea. Have heard any feedback or anything, or where or what the direction they want to take with that. So, and yeah, it also mentions, which fans were speculating, that the character of Janna, who showed up at the end of Rise of Skywalker, could potentially be Lando's daughter, which I wouldn't be surprised if that is the case. And also mentions an old novel that may or may not be canon anymore to the name of his daughter in that book. Next up.
All right, next up, as reported by Deadline, Geraldine Viswanathan is set to join Marvel Studios' Thunderbolts as she replaces Ayo Edebiri, who is departing the project due to scheduling after production was delayed due to the dual WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes last year. So Viswanathan is the second recent addition after the film added Louis Pullman to step in for Stephen Yeun, who departed for similar scheduling reasons as Edebiri. My guess is that Ayo Edebiri just won an Emmy for her role in The Bear.
Right.
It's probably a mix of she just won an Emmy and The Bear going back into production, which is why she can't go on to do this Thunderbolts role.
Well, not just that, because she's got a lot of apparently projects and either coming or working on. Because she's been around busy. She's been busy lately. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously now that everything's going back into production, she's got to prioritize. So right. I get that, but at the end of the day, you know what? My understanding is that she was going to play like a somewhat minor role. Bring her back for something good. She's very good in The Bear. I definitely recommend watching it. If you can't take a lot of people arguing and yelling at each other, maybe The Bear is not for you.
Wait, in or outside of the kitchen? Or both?
Both.
Yeah.
Both.
Figures.
Both. So yeah, there's that's the one kind of bit of feedback I get from people who I recommend The Bear to is there's so much yelling. I'm just like, it's almost unbearable for some people.
Yeah, understood. But hey,
yes, chef.
But shout out to her. Get that bag. Next up though, news. So that El Muerto Spider-Man project is reportedly back in development, but without Bad Bunny. And I'm just going to
Wow.
Yeah, and also you could also put why in that. Because the last we heard is like, Bad Bunny had departed that project, and they probably weren't. It wasn't happening because of strikes, or it wasn't going on because of strikes. But apparently, a report from Variety kind of says that it could still happen for some odd reason that none of us need. So, next up.
The season finale of Percy Jackson and the Olympians paid tribute to the late actor Lance Reddick, who starred as Zeus in the Disney Plus series. As reported by Deadline, the season 1 finale's credits begin with a title card reading, quote, "In loving memory of Lance Reddick," unquote. The actor, who was also known for his roles in John Wick and The Wire, passed away suddenly from natural causes on March 17th. His appearance in Percy Jackson will be one of his final on-screen performances, as his passing came not long after production ended.
Indeed. And also a major character in the video game Destiny 2 or Destiny and Destiny 2. So, next up, according to Matthew Vaughn, there's a Kick-Ass reboot and Kingsman 3 are both ready to go apparently. And Matthew Vaughn has been out there talking a lot lately for reasons. One of which actually had to do with that Millie Alcock story that we talked about, because I think he was talking about, it was like, you know, okay, they cast her, but who's directing? I figured the director, blah 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 blah, whatever. It doesn't matter. So yeah, there's probably going to be, and actually, I know he's got that new movie with her in it, Argyle, which also has Henry Cavill in it. You know, so if you liked his other stuff, this, from what I've seen of it, seems like is going to be a lot of those kind of shenanigans still in it. The Kingsman movie were actually pretty good. I think there's only one that I hadn't seen. And that was that, like, the origin one. Those are pretty fun, and Kick-Ass is what it is. So, next up.
Alrighty. We're getting the return of a funny character from the original Ghostbusters movie. That being William Atherton's sneering, nosy EPA inspector, Walter Peck. And that character apparently is returning in Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Okay.
Not only that, this man has no penis, but also Janine's coming back.
Right.
So you might get a Ghostbusters What Do You Want?
Yep. Annie Potts. That's cool.
Yep. So that's cool. I still hadn't seen the previous one, so but,
it's not terrible. You do all right watching it. It's not like something you need to rush to, but if you want to watch this movie, then yeah, sure, you should watch that one.
Actually, I hadn't seen Answer the Call either, but you know, it is what it is. We're gonna get. Well, no, we're not. Sorry, we're not there yet. I jumped the gun. Godzilla Minus One earns more than $100 million globally.
Cool beans. And also,
exactly. According to this article, there was an update saying from Deadline that reported that the film has now become the third highest grossing foreign language film of all time in the U.S., surpassing 2002's Hero and 2019's Parasite. The top spot belonging to still actually Crouching Tiger and Hidden Dragon. There's no and in that. I don't know why I put that in there. And 1997's Life is Beautiful. So, yeah. Not the only Godzilla news that we have here.
Watch Minus Color, because I think it left theaters at the end of January, because today is February 1st.
Wait, Minus Color left?
I think so. I think so. I think they both left.
That's weird, because I saw a listing on Fandango for today, the 1st. So you might be right about that.
Well, now I'm gonna check.
Yeah,
I'm gonna while you do the next story, because I saw something on social media that said that both were leaving the theaters, but maybe it was just the regular version that finally left theaters.
Nope, today's the last day for Minus Color, from what I'm seeing.
Fandango. Yeah. So today is the last. So today is the last day, not yesterday, but today being the last day. So
right,
that sucks.
Yeah, that sucks. Now, I'm kind of curious, because I'm sure there's going to be a digital and physical treatment, which I'm definitely going to get. And I wonder if they're going to do both, or, you know, do one and then come back later and do another treatment for Minus Color or something.
Try to get, yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, I hope they don't. I hope they do put them together in a big thing, but, you know, but we'll see. I mean,
yeah, that sucks. I meant to go watch it. Like it slipped my mind yesterday, and yesterday was the perfect time to go see it. I was in between things, nothing else scheduled for last night, and it just completely slipped my mind.
I actually know someone who has seen it, and they liked it a lot. I'm not sure if they saw the regular version, but they definitely saw Minus Color and they enjoyed it. But, you know, they like a lot of things, so I can't, you know, I can't just take it on that, but just that they liked it. So
Understood.
yeah. And there's nothing wrong with like a lot of things, but you know, I'm just saying. Oh, next up. So you have to be of a certain vintage to even remember this show, but there was a once upon a time back in the 70s, there was a show called Kung Fu. It was starred by a white person, not the first one, not the last one.
Oh no.
That was running around as a person who knows Kung Fu. If you heard the term walking the earth like Kane, that is exactly where that came from. Well, guess what? They're going to do a remake of Kung Fu with Donnie Yen in the starring role. And apparently Bullet Train's director will be at the helm. I've heard good things about Bullet Train, but I have not seen it.
I watched it. It's fun.
Yeah, I've heard that. So yeah, according to a new report on Deadline, Yen will play Kwai Chang Kane in a remake of Kung Fu, the classic 1970s martial arts series. I think, wait, is it going to be a movie or a show? Doesn't seem like it would be a show. You know how they sometimes been remaking stuff into them. Okay. It's a theatrical remake and doesn't have a release date yet. So there we go. That answers that question. Next up, we are going to go into Anime Corner.
Yes, we're going into Anime Corner, and it's a good thing that Roddykat altered the order here so that I could get this story. So here we go, Anime Corner. Oh, we're playing all of them. Alrighty, so Haikyuu the movie, Decisive Battle at the Garbage Dump, dropped a new trailer, and the movie is hitting Japan next month, and Haikyuu has a new trailer for the highly anticipated film. So the official social media account shared the new television spot that gives sports anime fans a closer look at one of the final matches of Hinata's team. So let's see. So we still don't know when this is going to hit America, but you know, we're just going to have to keep tuning in because we're going to keep on the lookout for news about that.
Indeed. Sorry, I was just throwing something in the news really quick.
Yeah. So the first of the two final films arrives in February. So hopefully soon we will find out when we here in North America will be able to see it, because you know, they have not put anything out about when North America gets it.
But rest assured, you will know, because Agent 70 will be right there.
I'm going to be on top of it.
Yeah, volleyball in hand, dressed in orange.
Yeah. I'm looking around see if one of the volleyballs I have at home is nearby, but it's a little too far away.
Yeah, it's fine. We'll catch up with that some other time. But yeah. So, and I'm sure there will be some news at some point soon. So, next up though, you need to really stop doing this. Thank you. Digimon Adventure 2: The Beginning Blu-ray has been announced from Shout Studios and Toei Animation. So yeah, you Digimon fans out there who probably haven't seen it already, this is, I guess, pretty much continuing to wreck your childhood in a way, because those movies have, from what I understand, have been kind of sad. The kids have all grown up, and from what I remember of the last movie, which I hadn't seen but I know a little bit about, it was the older kids' last hurrah with their Digimon, and I think this is taking up from the second crew, who have also gotten older. According to Zdarsky, Motomiya is now 20, so yeah, and the rest of the Digidestined seem to be changing bit by bit in terms of appearance and lifestyles. And a giant Digimon kind of happens to run up, and of course they got to get back into action once again. So you know the vibe. I'm sure folks will be down for it. Digimon, the real Power World. Anyway, so there are certain folks who will get that reference. Next up.
I was about to say, I have no idea what he's talking about. Anyway, we're gonna move on into the manga corner, and we're gonna get another haiku story. So here we go again. So the Haikyuu manga gets a new one-shot on February 5th. So this year's 9th issue of Shueisha's weekly Shonen Jump magazine revealed that Haruichi Furudate will pen a new one-shot for the Haikyuu manga that Shueisha will publish in the magazine's 10th issue on February 5th. The 16-page chapter will have a color page and will commemorate the upcoming Haikyuu film. The chapter will tell a, quote, different angle, unquote, to the Karasu no Hai versus Nekoma High showdown. Okay.
And unlike Agent 70, I have no idea what that's talking about, but sure. I wish I had gotten I could have gotten the transition a little bit smoother there, but that was on me. I was in a hurry. But cool. Next up, though, Dragon Ball announces special Death Note collaboration. So I don't know about you. I would not want Vegeta to get his hands on a Death Note because we know who would be the first one to catch it. So yeah,
I'm kidding.
No, she caught it. She caught it in a different way. That's why. Okay. But I said that's why they have trunks. But
that's terrible. It's terrible, man.
It is. But hey. So apparently, being that this is the 40th anniversary of Dragon Ball, folks, we're old. I mean, it's not like you can tell that from my beard, but anyway, it says here that the artist behind the Death Note is teaming up with the purveyors of Dragon Ball on a new project to help hype up this 40th anniversary. Let's see, not only will the Dragon Ball anime return for a brand new anime series in Dragon Ball Daima, which we have talked about previously, but several of Shueisha's biggest names have been teaming up for a cool new project. Let's see, Shueisha will be commemorating Dragon Ball's 40th anniversary with a special art exhibit for the franchise in Japan, and has been leading up to the exhibit by showing off Shonen Jump's biggest creators sharing their takes on Dragon Ball, which I think we may have talked about that exhibit previously. I don't remember, but yeah, a lot of remixing of covers and from other creators, including Takeshi Obata of Death Note. So if you're in Japan and want to send us some pictures from that exhibit, if you can, hey, please, by all means do, because we're not going to be able to see it. Unless someone does that. Is there anything else to it? Nope, doesn't seem like. Next up.
All righty, so a new Kodansha and Humble Bundle deal delivers $1,500 of manga for $30 whole dollars. So you can get this bundle full of fan favorite titles. So if you look at the deal, you can see the publisher is putting its award-worthy title center stage. Yeah, so I'm trying to see.
Yeah, I'm
so from Vinland Saga to Witch Hat Atelier, you have 20 days to purchase this gift. I want to see a list of them.
You have to click through the go to the bottom of the thing and click through.
Oh, see the Kodansha deal? I gotcha.
It's nothing that you would probably know of, and I would say it's like popularly probably a lot of manga people who read manga on a regular probably know a lot of these. I'm
right. Vinland Saga is one of those adaptations that I know is popular.
Right. Outside of that, I can't say that I know. Shangri-La Frontier I've heard of, but I've not. Yeah.
Right, and if they don't include Attack on Titan,
is that Kodansha?
Yes.
No, they're not. It's definitely not.
Right. If they don't include Attack on Titan, they're not going to draw anybody's attention.
I disagree on that, but because like I said, manga readers are a little bit more voracious than that. So there's definitely an audience for this. specifically for these ones, because I don't know anything about them, but they seem for a specific set of manga readers. Apparently, they're award-winning and nominated, so nothing to sneeze at. And I'm pretty sure if they did a Attack on Titan, and I'm pretty sure they probably have, it would be a bundle on its unto itself
on its own, right?
Mm-hmm. So, and I feel like I probably have done it actually. Either way, hey, Humble Bundle, you know it, you love it. Go check it out if you are interested. Let's see, where are we now? Excuse me, comic book news.
Comic book news. Let's go for a good transition. Let's go.
Perfect. Cartoon Books to release collection of early Jeff Smith works. So yes, Cartoon Books, which is the name of the publishing company, is going to do a collection of Bone, which that's the only thing from Jeff Smith that I know about. His college strip Thorn, and which I guess looks like came before Bone hit from his college days, as I said. And that's it. If you're watching the video version, you can see a image of the two characters slapping hands. Actually, I'm going to put this one for next week and this one for also next week. But yeah, that looks like there was a Kickstarter from last year that made it, and looks like there's going to be a 304-page trade paperback edition that follows a hard cover edition for both of those, it seems. The trade is going to be released January 30th of this year for $30. Next up.
One moment.
Oh.
Starscream versus Soundwave decides the Decepticons leader in a major change to Transformers lore. So this is solicitations. This is from solicitations from April's Transformers #7, which promises a fight between Starscream and Soundwave to determine once and for all who leads the Decepticons. Yeah, it's a little different.
It is, but this version of Transformers has been pretty much leading up to it. So I wasn't surprised by this one, by seeing this was the case. There was another article that I neglected to put in that was also from solicitations that had to do with Corporate Commander, and I felt like that one was slightly more spoilery than this one, even though solicitations by their very nation are kind of spoilerish in a way. So you'll probably see about that one closer to when that book comes out, I would imagine. But this is something I did not know was a thing, but the next epic chapter of the Nacelle verse begins in April with ROBOFORCE #1. So apparently Nacelle, who we actually talked about last week, funny enough, and I think what kind of made me look into some things, purveyors of the toys that made us, the movies that made us, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, have been dipping their hands into comic book publishing and other things, including a streaming comedy channel, apparently, from what I found out. But yeah, this is their collaboration with Oni Press, and this is their first book out of that. ROBOFORCE #1. According to this article, the must-read first issue putting the 22nd century's most advanced robot strike force into their milestone comic book debut. And I believe ROBOFORCE is a property before now. Like, it's not a new property. I feel like I've seen this elsewhere. Like it has a tour line somewhere, but I can't remember if it's the case. ROBOFORCE #1 is going to come out April 17th, 2024. And there's a little synopsis as to there's also a little synopsis of it, but also it says here that the comic series leads into a direct animated series also by the Nacelle Company, which is co-produced by Brian Volk Weiss of Nacelle and 7 Bucks Productions. Dwayne, y'all know him, The Rock Johnson, Danny Garcia, Hiram Garcia, and Brian Gerwitz. So, like I said, I was looking through the Nacelle versus other projects, and there are some, if you are of a certain vintage, notable inclusions here, such as Sectars, Warriors of Symbion, Cowboys of Moo Mesa. The Great Garloo is probably the only one that I don't know of. Power Lords and Biker Mice from Mars, which I know is also getting a book. All of these are actually getting a book. But that is the way they are coming out. And the writer for those books are Melissa Flores. If you're watching the video version, you can see that and all of those characters in their glory. So apparently Nacelle's doing it big, or continuing to do it big.
Mm-hmm.
So good on them. Apparently Ryan Reynolds is executive producing on that Biker Mice from Mars thing. And I can't say that I'm surprised by that one. Next up,
Spider-Boy attempts to write his own theme song in this preview for Spider-Boy number 3. Really,
you know,
that's all I got to say. Really,
yeah.
I mean,
I
I get it.
Well, I'm glad you do, because I still having trouble getting it.
Listen, Slot said if the people didn't want to buy it, they wouldn't have bought it. So apparently they're still buying Spider-Boy.
He's right. You know, and it's not a knock against that at all, but still, people are going to buy silly stuff anyway. And when we could have had a goddamn Avengers Inc. book continue to be the case. Anyway. Yes, I'm still salty about that. Next up, though, which I should have moved to the... Man, this site is so slow to load. There we go. I should have moved this, but Mickey and Friends celebrate 60 years of Avengers and X-Men. So yeah, I've already shown a bunch of their variant covers from when we talked about Amazing Spider-Man, and they're still going, but there's going to be some more. The reason why I put this one here, because y'all know me, I'm a fan of West Coast Avengers, so I had to show the West Coast Avengers Disney Mickey Mouse and Folks cover, which is which takes up from West Coast Avengers number 1. So if you're watching the video versions, you can see that right there, with Disney characters in the I would say appropriate costumings, I guess. And there's also an X-Men one, which I'm also showing right now, which looks like I don't know what cover this is. This is the Havoc cover. Gotcha. I guess that's the first appearance of Havoc. Minnie Mouse is Dazzler, and I guess that's the last one that they put out here. You will probably see some of these again, because these are variant covers for Amazing Spider-Man and X-Men. Nope, no, these are all the Amazing Spider-Man variant covers, as they have been. So, which is a weird choice for them to put them on, because those covers have nothing to do with Spider-Man. So, with the exception of 1 or 2 that they've done. So that's kind of funny. Next up.
Right. So interestingly, there's a concept over at Marvel called Black, White, and Red. When you're dealing with some of the heroes or characters even that get things a little bloody, right? So now they've brought it over to the Star Wars corner, and they're doing Star Wars Darth Maul, right? Interestingly, they've done Darth Vader Black, White, and Red before. Now they're doing Darth Maul Black, White, and Red, but they're doing 4 issues of it.
Which they've done. Yeah, because I think that last Darth Vader one, I believe, was a couple of issues.
Interesting.
The most notable thing about here, obviously, with the cover schemes that they put in here, that is pretty much Darth Maul's colors anyway. So
right.
It all checks out. But yeah, I wanted to check out that Darth Vader one. I'm glad this reminded me of that one. Anywho, next up, Some news that I found particularly interesting, even though I think I have all of them. Sex Criminals is going to be collected into a complete edition. As this site finally loads up, you can see what looks to be the cover of the edition if you're watching the video version. So yeah, Matt Fraction and Chip Zdarsky's notable works will be collected in its entirety, issues 1 through 30, and the one-shot special edition number 69 into a massive paperback compendium edition this March from Image Comics. So there you go, folks. Does it say? It'll be available March 27th and 26th and 27th. I'm looking for a price for this thing. I don't see a price, so there you go. I'm sure, yeah, it'll probably be upwards of 30, 40, 50. Next up,
Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League has been pulled offline after a bizarre game-beating bug. The servers were operational for just an hour before players started encountering the issue.
if you're a video game, if you're a gamer, this is not surprising or much news because a lot of games kind of come out broken. But I have seen a couple of people playing recently, even though I don't think the game. Well, I guess the game came out today or yesterday, or I guess if you bought in earlier or something. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't played it yet, so I haven't even bought it yet. It's had mixed reviews from what I understand, but I try not to check out those because sometimes they're a little this article notes that, yeah, like I said, there are other big games that have had bad launches before. Yeah, according to this game should come out on the 2nd, which is tomorrow as of we're recording. But like I said, I have seen people playing yesterday. So I assume that was people either bought in early or something or other to that effect. If you don't know the premise of it, hey, the Suicide Squad has to kill the Justice League, who's been taken over by what seems like a Star Wars-like thing, which kind of seems familiar if you're reading that
Beast World,
Titans, yeah, the Titans thing. So coincidence? Probably not. Next up, though, Suicide Squad's Killed the Justice League might not be Kevin Conroy's final Batman performance. Apparently, he will have, he might have a part in Batman Cape Crusader, which is that animated series that is coming out on, I guess, on Max. I don't know. And the Crisis on Infinite Earth trilogy, which is also going to come out sometime later, sometime later this year. So the preeminent voice of Batman is still will still be around for a little while longer, but also will continue to be in our hearts and, you know, subsequent runs of Batman the Animated Series and Justice League. So, which I've been meaning to go back to that show. Speaking of, but yeah, there's that. Next up.
So Dave the Diver is bringing Godzilla with him to PS5 this spring. So Dave the Diver is coming to PS5 and PS4. The 2023 breakout hit won Indie Game of the Year at the Game Awards and was included in Engadget's Best Games of 2023. It arrives on these consoles in April, and the Godzilla crossover DLC follows it in May. The game has you exploring a vast underwater world full of mysteries during the day and helming a sushi restaurant at night. Okay. Dave the Diver launched on PC in June and arrived on Switch in late October. So apparently the Godzilla DLC introduces even more enormous threats lurking in the depths as you prepare to meet the king of the monsters in the blue hole. Okay.
So the funny part about this, so this is from the day before, well, yeah, yesterday as of this recording, Sony had a state of play where this was announced. And of course, in true fashion, it was like we see Dave the Diver, showing up, and then they play the music. The Godzilla movie music. So that in itself, and then you see Godzilla just rising up from the blue hole. And I was like, that made me so happy. Because when I heard the music, I was like, oh snap. They're really doing this. And sure enough, there it is. So that was cool. Speaking of Godzilla, how would you like to see some Godzilla in a children's book? Because guess what? You're going to get one. Apparently, there is going to be a book called Brave Like Godzilla, written by Charlie Moon and illustrated by Jordan Bradley and Milo Moore, coming out for readers 4 to 8, of course. And the new story will be running for 32 pages in length and retail at $14.99, but I'm sure there's probably going to be some other folks get it. And it's going to release on June 25th. If you wait, I thought I saw a cover. I did see a cover of this.
Yeah, there is a cover.
I didn't see it in the thing though, or at least on Monday. There we go. You see Godzilla there. If you're watching the video version, if you're not watching the video version, you see Godzilla. I'm going to say Godzuki, even though I know the son of Godzilla and not Godzuki, and a couple of other kaiju therein, or maybe the little one is Godzilla and that's Godzilla's parent. I don't know.
No, that's Manila.
Manila.
Manila or Mina, but Manila is the kid.
Yeah, son of Godzilla, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still gonna call him Katsuki because let's face it, that's what I grew up with.
I know.
And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you're not old enough. Don't worry about it. Go look up your cartoon history, kids. But anyway, yeah, that's the thing. So check that out if you feel so inclined. Next up.
Alrighty. One moment. I was seconds away from pre-ordering that on Amazon.
And that's why I put that little tidbit about other folks. Because I figured that was going to be the case.
Okay, one second. Letting this story load. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, Goku's Next Journey DLC official announcement trailer. So, this is new DLC for the action RPG.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Which, yeah, sounds like it's pretty much end capping. Well, it's the end of Dragon Ball Z basically, because that's when folks end up meeting up with Oob after everything. So, sure.
I forgot who Oob was. I was like, Oob.
It's another iteration of Boo.
Oh, that's right. There's so much. Listen, folks.
Or
there's
the reincarnated version of Boo, I should say.
All right. I mean, I kind of struggle with that whole story, because I listen, as a fan of Animaniacs, when I was finally, catching up on Dragon Ball Z, and they introduced this character named Majin Buu, all I could think of was, you're not a man, you're a Majin Buu.
Yes, indeed.
No. So every time he came on the screen, I was like, you're not a man, you're a Majin Buu.
Which also still checks out. So, yeah, indeed. Wow, this article says that that game is 4 years old. I didn't realize that because it doesn't seem like that was the case, but sure. Hasbro reveals Omega Prime Transformer crowdfunding project. Optimus Prime and Ultra Magnus, apparently. And, well, them separately, but also they combine into one, as you can see from the video version, together. And I don't know what version this comes from because it's, Robots in Disguise. That's why I don't know it. Because there was a lot of that going on in that show from what I remember, and I've seen like clips and stuff of that show, but I've never actually watched it. So now that makes sense. So yeah, there you go. I've been
Yeah,
planning to
because I
watch
was
that
just like,
stuff.
what are you guys talking? What are you talking about?
Yeah, like I said, the later shows kind of started doing stuff like that. And it's like, okay. So, I mean, to be fair, probably some of the couple of the Japanese ones that probably did that as well, but I'm still kind of going through those. So yeah, it's 3 figures, an 8.5-inch Optimus, an 11.5-inch Ultra Magnus, and a 5.75-inch Blue Bolt figure, which I assume that is also another character in the in that show. It is going for $250. So yeah, that's their crowdfunding thing. I'm pretty sure they'll probably make it because I'm sure I'm a Transformers fan, but I don't know this one though. So yeah, probably gonna stay away from that one. Next up though.
All right, last but not least, so let me get this article open because I was too busy trying to figure out who the hell Omega Supreme. Oh no, like Omega Prime was.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading the article, like what?
Mm-hmm.
So Wheeljack, first look at Autobot multi-pack figure from Transformers Generation Selects set. Okay. So you can get what the hell? Wait, so there's a what the I'm so confused by the way this this article is written because it's a fan site.
It's the fan site.
Okay.
For
all right. So they're putting out a Wheeljack in this Transformers Generation Selects group of figures. So take a look, folks.
Yeah, so Select is like the Marvel Selects version of Transformers. It's not quite the Masterpiece, which is the more pricier, more intricate ones, but this is like the, I guess, base level priced ones. So cool. I was almost about to call them the cheap version, but that's not right. That wouldn't be right at all.
Right.
But yeah, it's a multi-pack, so I guess it's a couple of different versions of Wheeljack, and apparently they have some other G1s and ones that they've already put out here already. So cool. I thought they were with the set, but or maybe they are. There's a Hound and Trailblazer here. So but anyway, so there is that. Folks, if you are so interested in variant covers, there are 3 others that are down on the list in the show notes that if you want to check out. Particularly one from Miss Marvel's upcoming miniseries. But like I said, you can check all of that out in the show notes. Let's get to one last ad read.
Our last ad read of the night is for Amazon. Keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us and click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, or Marvel Legends. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment that helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through CSPN.us. Do it today. By the way,
yes,
the X-Men 97 cartoon Nightcrawler is out in pre-order.
okay.
And you can get that on Hasbro Plus, Entertainment Earth, Big Bad Toy Store, and Amazon. So you can jump on that. I'd say Nightcrawler, but the entire wave is up. But Nightcrawler is the figure I want to get. So that's what I pre-ordered.
Gotcha. None of those folks are sponsoring us, just letting y'all know that it's out there in places. Well, except for Amazon, but that's
exactly. I was about to say, yeah, like Big Bad. No, we just mentioned that as an option.
Yeah. And folks, that is it for this here episode of this here show. Yeah, we'll be back next Thursday. Same bat time, same bat channel. Hopefully slightly earlier, but things happen. Sometimes we get to talk before the show, pre-production things kind of happen. You can. I am Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at NewsNetSneed on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram. Agent_70 on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads.
Threads.
PCN_Dirt on Twitter, Pop Culture Net on Twitter, popculturenetwork.com is all his umbrella sites therein. And Tim, DOGG98 on Twitter, CB Chron on Twitter, which I need to talk to him about getting a hold of that, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account. I know it's X. I don't care. I'm still going to call it Twitter. Fight me. Thank you. You can also find Tim over at The Kliq Nation on Twitter. That's TheKliqNation. TheKliqNation.com also. But of course, you're going to find Tim over at comicbook.com, where he's over there writing his face off. Timothy Adams is the name you want to be looking for. Catch it. You can find this here podcast on the Coastal Podcast Network. That's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
You could also find us on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coastal Podcast Network SoundCloud page.
Make sure to click like, subscribe, and leave us all the positive 5-star reviews, especially on Apple Podcasts.
Sometimes I realize I have a camera on me, and I'm just looking every which way but loose, and just like I'm not looking at where I'm supposed to be. But that's fine. Y'all understand. What was I going to say? Oh, every Thursday night we record, as I said earlier, twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles and youtube.com/TheKliqNation.
Make sure to click like, subscribe, and hit that notification button so you know when we are broadcasting live and in living color.
Speaking of that, I saw a couple of episodes of that lately after watching I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, so that was kind of funny. And actually, speaking of streaming, there could be some Captain America and Avengers being streamed. I'm still trying to narrow down which one I want to do first, because there's always that first one. Like, do I want to go back to like Atari era and the first Superman and Superman and Spider-Man games, which those wouldn't be on there that long. Do I want to do Captain America and Avengers, which sounds like that might be the move, even though I've done it on my own kind of channel? We shall see. But folks, more streams are coming, rest assured. And with that, folks, this has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One.
And knowing is half the battle.